Give a voice to the unheard. This is the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM.
Welcome on board the Morning Express.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to a beautiful Friday edition of the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Although I was already excited for the weekend since yesterday and I was telling everybody happy Thursday. It seemed weird, but you would not understand how much desire I have for us to just get into the weekend, and we're one step closer to the weekend. So I am super excited and I hope that you're just as excited as I am about the weekend. Good morning once again. Welcome to radio. My name is Sage Babalola and you're currently listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. It's a beautiful Friday morning. We're starting to wrap up the week, but as we wrap up the week, we're definitely here to bring you the highlights and the key stories that we analyzed since the start of the week, Monday. Most of these stories have become developing stories, meaning that there's one update or the other regarding these stories, and our newspapers have done a wonderful job of making sure that we're up to speed with these stories as we go along the week. So join us as we dive into the headlines this morning. We're going to explore matters from politics to business, what's going on in the world of economics, to talk about even our culture, some of our lifestyle trends, and how it has somewhat influenced governance in the country as put together by the newspapers. Of course, we're going to unpack the biggest developments and even go further to offer you some sort of insight into some of these stories, which is what our in-house analyst would be bringing to the table once we bring him on board. Hopefully we're able to get some light moments on the front pages of the dailies. I know it's been a lot of intense stories since Monday, and I'm just hoping that today, at least being the weekend, there's something in there that makes us excited. So just settle in. Let's see what the headlines have for us this morning. We're going to be looking at the Guardian, the Punch, the Vanguard newspaper in no particular order, but to be clear, there are multiple ways through which you can listen to us, so you're not bound to listening to your traditional radio, which means that as long as you have access to the internet, you have access to us. So if you cannot listen to your radio, maybe because you're in transit and you cannot carry a transistor radio on your shoulder on your way to work, that's understandable. You can listen to us via Radio Garden. Just go to the Radio Garden website or the Radio Garden app and just search for Mainland 98.3 FM and you can listen to us. You can also listen to us via Facebook and YouTube. As a matter of fact, you can watch us on those platforms. They're social media platforms, but they also double as our streaming platforms. So you can go on there and just go on to Facebook, facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM, or just go straight into Facebook, search the station Mainland 98.3 FM. The red circle that you see on our picture there, just click on it and that is the live stream. That's the connection to the live stream. It's quite simple. The same for YouTube. Just go to YouTube, check Mainland 98.3 FM. You'll be taken to our page and you would immediately see the live icon there. Click on it and you've connected with us. So you have no excuse to be absent from the conversation this morning. Enough said. Let's bring Fuad Said on board, our in-house analyst, as we begin to analyze the stories put forward on the front pages of our dailies. Welcome once again. It is trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Let's get straight into the papers. Fuad, good morning to you. Oh, forgive me. For some reason, I thought I had dialed Fuad Said. I'm so sorry. I'm working like an analog computer this morning. But then, whilst we are waiting Fuad Said, there's a conversation that is not necessarily on the front page of the dailies, but it was a conversation that was quite popular yesterday on social media. And I'm talking about the reports regarding the Third Mainland Bridge and the conversations around the bridge, should I say, being compromised. But then we've had the Lagos State government step in. For example, the Comptroller General of Works have taken journalists on a tour of that bridge to ensure that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the bridge, although rehabilitation work is still ongoing, but the integrity of that bridge has not in any way been compromised. I think I have Fuad now. Fuad, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
Well, I thought I had dialed you and I was already talking to you. Then it occurred to me that I had not done it. My iOS is very low right now. But then good morning, Fuad. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God
you
it's
for
Friday.
having me.
Of course. I was just, before we brought you on, I was just talking about the conversation around the Tᴏɪᴛᴛᴇ Bridge. I'm sure you saw it. A lot of people were talking about it yesterday. And there were rumors that the integrity of that bridge was compromised and it was shaking, basically. But we had Olukorede. She took journalists on a tour of the bridge, the entire 11 kilometers. And yes, she did admit that there's still a lot of rehabilitation going on, especially underwater works. Even some of the slabs are still being fixed, but it in no way poses any form of danger to the community and public. And we should dispel the rumor that the bridge is shaking or there's something wrong with it. Do you want to comment briefly?
Yeah. Again, there was a lot of information circulating on social media, particularly about the integrity of the bridge. I think a number of commuters and motorists had complained about the vibration levels, while using the bridge. But again, I think we still have to listen to what the government is saying so that we don't just panic unnecessarily. Safety concerns very important that we have to pay attention to the integrity of the bridge. There have been a lot of works, but like the official of the Lagos State government is telling us that it's not as if work has ended really to ensure the bridge is safe for Lagosians and every other Nigerian that would have to use the bridge. There are still some underwater works going on, but I'm just saying that, look, what can we do really? We are not structural engineers, we are not experts to say whether the bridge is safe or not, so we have to still rely on what the government is telling us, believing that they are on top of the situation and that they will do everything to ensure that the bridge is safe for all commuters. So one of those things, but it's just important that Lagosians don't have to panic. We are not supposed to spread unfounded rumors. We still have to listen to the government on this particular one.
All right, thank you very much, Fuad. Now to the stories of the day. We have the Guardian, Punch, Vanguard. Like I said earlier, we're kicking off conversations with Guardian newspaper. The top story, it pains me to kick off the conversation like this, but this is the story that has been highlighted as one of the most significant stories this morning. It's some sort of editorial on the front page of the Guardian. It reads, "War against terrorists, caught in the middle. Survivors count cost of accidental airstrikes." Now, abused and levied by terrorists before they can access their farmlands. Northern farmers are in a real dilemma, while the outlaws even slaughter some of them for failing to comply with their dictates and monetary demands. Many in the north now live in the shadows of death, worried by accidental bombing. Although the military claims a comprehensive investigation is in progress, much is yet to be heard of the outcome of these findings. With the image of a killing field already silhouetting, matters are further complicated, with insurgents and bandits struggling for territories, while improved assets for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, as well as precision strikes in the insurgent enclave, are being canvassed. Now, this story, Fuad, speaks to the reality of our brothers and sisters in the north who have been unfortunate victims of accidental bombing by the military. And this story sort of encapsulates the reality of the victims. One of the stories here, or one of the victims here, lost 14 of his family members in one strike. How do you grieve, or how do you mourn 14 members of your family, including his daughter, his nieces, his brother? Almost every single member of his family died. Now, the Guardian goes further to sort of take our mind back to the history of accidental bombings that have happened as far back as 2014, 2017. For example, in January of 2017, 52 villagers were killed and 120 injured in accidental bombing by the Nigeria Air Force fighter jet. In 2020, 17 civilians were killed, including women and children. In 2022, we had about 6 children killed in JᴏɪＲ local government area. 2022 as well, 13 villagers, including women and children, were killed. It goes on and on and on up until the most recent one. There's the one a few months ago, December, for example, where December of 2024, where about 85 people were killed as a result of accidental bombing by the military. And the conversation is not just on a national level. The report again further takes our mind back to even the international community. There was one time last year where some members of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the House of Representatives in the United Nations told Joe Biden to halt the $1 billion arms assistance to Nigeria as they were reacting to the reports that there was some sort of targeted killing of children by the Nigerian military, and also the emphasis on allegation of the program of forced abortion that was being carried out on women in the north by the military. Now, acting on these allegations, we have the the Foreign Affairs Commission saying that let's not give Nigeria any money for their security at this time, because they are allegedly using the resources to harm the civilians that they're supposed to protect. So this is not just a national issue. Even the our foreign counterparts are concerned about these operations. Fuad, we need to have a conversation about operations of the military and how they are willing to deal with all of these allegations, and also how to make sure that we are abating or minimizing as much civilian casualties as possible, as much as we're trying to chase down these terrorists and these bandits.
Well, Sage, another fantastic report from the Guardian newspaper. And look at the first statement in this particular story. It captures the essence and the purpose for why this story was put together in the first place. That look, these are people who are facing what you can call double jeopardy. See, you have these terrorists who are breathing down their neck, harassing them, assaulting them, collecting taxes and levies from them before they can even access their farms. So basically living at the mercy of these monsters, these dangerous elements. And then while the Nigerian military is making attempts to rid these communities of these terrorists, these criminals, these guys are caught in harm's way under what you can term as accidental, or what you can call collateral damage, accidental bombing. But the last time that we had this conversation, Sage, after the recent situations I think we had in Sokoto, and then also I think somewhere in Zamfara before, we also had a report of farmers, about 40 of them being killed by these terrorists somewhere in Borno State. We have talked about the fact that, look, while we appreciate our military and our soldiers for the sacrifice and selflessness to protect Nigerians, to go after these monsters, to go after these criminals, it's just very important that we also talk about the precision by which they carry out their operation. You cannot have reported cases of collateral damage, and it's your own citizens that you are killing. If you understand, I have also seen people, we sit here in the south, probably even in Lagos here, where, there seems to be relative peace and security. And we just assume that every other villager that has been killed from this accidental bombing was culpable, was aiding and abetting the terrorists. The story does not, it's painting a different picture. Remember the last one that happened, I think, somewhere in Sokoto, until the vice president also had to go there. The assumption was that, look, these guys were aiding the terrorists, they were accommodating them. Again, you might have one or two community members doing that. And there are some that will be doing that not as a result of their own personal will, but because, look, they probably have no choice. They've been captured, they've been subdued, harassed, intimidated to the point where they can't even do anything to help themselves. If you understand what I'm saying. So, look, the reality is that, look, we need to address these issues. Nobody is saying, the military is not trying the effort and all of that, but you cannot have this long list of accidental bombings where innocent Nigerians have been killed and not get worried, and not even talk about it, and not even raise critical questions about the capacity of the military to carry out this operation in the most diligent and effective way. There are questions around the capacity, the efficiency of the Nigerian military to carry out these operations, and we can't live in denial about it. See, it's just what it is. And so that's why I'm saying it's wrong for anybody to sit here in the south and assume, that local, they are probably also aiding it. No. We have to speak with people who are on ground, who tell you that, look, these villagers, despite the intimidation, the harassment, and the killing from these terrorists, sometimes have to find a way to live their normal life. In one of the reports, I think they were gathered for maybe a Maulud celebration, a Muslim festival celebration, and they were wiped out, mistaken for terrorists who had gathered somewhere. So, again, intelligence gathering, maybe better equipment, more sophisticated equipment that can allow for better precision when it comes to targeting terrorists. We just have to look at some of these things. And that's why people are saying that, look, we may have to check and recheck again the efficiency and capacity of the Nigerian military. If we need to improve on something, why not? But to say that we are not going to check it and continue to believe that all is well, it will mean that we want to continue to live in denial and it will not help us.
Well, like I said, it is indeed a very, very unfortunate story to begin the day with, but it is worthy of conversation. It's on page 4 and 5. There are actually a lot more details, even victims' account.
It's a long story,
very long
very
story.
story.
Victims' account of everything that has happened and how, there's the clamor for justice, that those who sanctioned these operations should be made to answer questions. But then it's just they come, they commiserate with them, promise compensation, and that's about it. But they expect that the people who sanction these operations, without considerations for the safety of civilians on the ground, should be made to answer questions. What sort of intelligence did you use to sanction said operation, amongst many things? So I do advise that you get a copy of The Guardian and read pages 4 and 5 for details on this particular story. Now let's move on to other national issues. We do have here rowdy session at National Assembly over budget defense. Agency's head Sean Session as Akpabio seeks priority for citizens' welfare. Now, the 2025 budget defense session of the Nigeria Police Force turned chaotic yesterday as lawmakers erupted into a heated dispute, culminating in a dramatic walkout by Senator Onyekachi Onweboyin, APC Ebonyi North. The disruption marred the Joint Committee session, which was supposed to review the police budget and access the Inspector General's funding request. Now, the uproar sort of began when the Inspector General of Police, that's IGP Kaide Egbetokun, was presenting details of the police budget regarding the construction of 5 zonal police headquarters. As he spoke, House of Representatives member for Uyo Unro Ikpesipo in Siata Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom, Mark Esset, interjected, questioning why figures he was references were absent from the document provided to the committee member. And so the situation escalated when Nwabonyi, a principal officer, demanded that the IGP provide a proper copy of the information to the lawmakers present. But he was overruled by the committee chairman, which caused him to stage a walkout. Now, aside from that, there was a lot of displeasure as well with the Ministry of Agriculture. They were quite unhappy about the fact that the Director General of the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Services, Dr. Vincent Isegbe, during the budget defense session of the agency, he wasn't there, basically. And they're saying that if we're getting projections by the World Food Program, for example, that 33.1 million Nigerians will be in Akitonga in 2025, it's a clear indication that agriculture and food security should not be toyed with. So it's somewhat disappointing that those who are heading that particular sector are not even around to properly defend and talk about the things that they need to fully execute or at least minimize food insecurity in the country. So this is just 2 of the many unhealthy interactions that happened during the budget defense. For the lack of seriousness in presentations like this one, what sort of story is this telling the Nigerian people who are trusting them to make the right decisions regarding our welfare?
Well, it's left for whoever has listened to us severally on what this budget particularly amounts to and the entire process of budget defense and scrutiny. Again, for people who have been opportune to see the budget defense sessions, you understand that, look, it's just a complete joke. It's become a ridiculous exercise, for want of better words. And I'll tell you why. In fact, we're almost going to play the sound bites of that chaotic session during the IGP presentation, budget defense at the National Assembly. And what was the issue? One of the legislators has said that, look, a part of the committee members actually has said that, look, what the IGP is reading to us is different from what they have provided for us. At least, if I'm going to ask questions, I'll not only ask questions from what he's telling us, I would have to look at the document that's presented, which is supposed to be, in agreement with what he's reading, so that I can be able to have an informed opinion and idea about some of the provisions of the IGP and his presentations. And it look very logical. You can't even fault that. That, look, why would the IGP be reading something to us that is different from the documents we have? And then the chairman of the committee overruled him and said, no, they were the ones that gave the IGP the opportunity to summarize his presentation. And the man said, what other job do we have? We are not in a hurry. What does it take for him to be able to read out of the entire thing? So that we can now look, Nigerians are expecting us to do the right thing. But he was overruled, and the guy said that, look, I won't be seated here to see the IGP read out something that is different from the one I have in front of me. And that was where the whole drama started. And then, of course, you had that of the agri people too, who didn't show up. You know, a critical sector like the agri sector that were supposed to get details of how they're going to be spending their money. So ensure that this, forecast of serious or predictions of serious food scarcity in 2025 is being addressed. It's not even the stakeholders in that ministry did not show up to even present anything or defend anything. And that has been the pattern since. I think I was also privy to watch the defense by the Minister of Power, Mr. Adelabu, and that was where he said that, look, 8 billion was also be spent on sensitized people and how to pay their NEPA bills and all. So, look, from what was drafted in the first place, from what was put together as the appropriation bill, now to the entire legislative exercise of scrutinizing it, till eventually when it will be passed, change. Yes, for me, I've lost any hope that indeed there's a clear intention to address the issues of nation building as far as this budget is concerned. I keep telling you that the things my eyes have seen as appropriations in this budget, we should not even discuss it. The things that has been put in this budget, the reckless spending, the misappropriations, the appropriations of money to things that have no direct impact on the living standards of the people that have not been locked up in this budget, tells you that we're going nowhere. It's not, you can live in denial about it, you can deceive yourselves about it. We have the document. If you think you don't know what you're saying, let us sit on this document and debate it. And tell me why anybody would believe that this document called the 2025 Operation Bill is taking us anywhere. It's taking us nowhere because intentions are clear. And I will not be the one to define the intentions. From the figures and the reviews we've had so far about the budget, you should already know where the intentions are. And why it is painful, I keep repeating that thing. Why it is extremely painful is that this is the period where the government is telling the people that there's no money. This is the period where the government is on an aggressive revenue drive, taking a lot of monies away from the people, putting it in the hands of different governments at the national, sub-national level, with the hope that that money will not be judiciously used to better the lives of the people. And any of the items you have seen shown any clear indication that as long as the government continues to take more money from the people, they are committed to using the money to better the lives of the people. So when we say some of these things, I remember when the figures were put out, and I said that, look, the devil is in the detail. By the time we begin to pick out the little things, you will know whether this is a budget taking us somewhere or taking us nowhere. And my own conclusion is that we are going nowhere with this budget.
Page 3 of the Guardian newspaper has that story. It is 3 minutes past 8 a.m. here, and you are listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're looking through our dailies. The Guardian newspaper, more specifically, Fuadside and I are conversing around the headlines, providing insight, providing an opportunity for us to really scrutinize the headlines as put together by our dailies. It's not time for us to take contributions yet. When it's time, we will let you know. We're right now just still talking about the story, so please stick around with us. Don't forget that we're live on Facebook and on YouTube, so do well to join our live stream at Mainland 98.3 FM, or if you want to be more specific, on Facebook it is facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM. Is back to the headlines now. Still speaking on defense and decisions of our legislators. We have tax reform. Governors, presidency shelf VAT hike. Agree on new revenue sharing formula. The riders to the story: North jittery over reforms due to ill preparedness, says Akpoti Uduahan. We have ASU urges National Assembly to safeguard TEP fund, and we have Northern CSOs warn on politicization of tax debate. Now, after months of tension over the controversial tax reform bills, Nigeria's 36 governors and the presidency have finally reached a consensus, shelving plans to increase value-added tax, that's VAT rate, and introducing a more equitable revenue sharing formula. Now, the resolution came during subnational consultation with the Presidential Tax Reform Committee in Abuja. So there's the communique, and the communique, as signed by the NGF chairman Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, governor of Kwara State, have revised the VAT sharing formula that is aimed at equitable distribution of resources. So this is what the formula proposes. Forward, the VAT revenue would be shared 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population. Now, the governors have also opposed any increase in VAT rate or a reduction in corporate income tax. As you know, since they're not increasing value added tax, then keep corporate income tax at the rate that it is. I believe it's around 25 to 30% thereabout. Keep that so we can use that to generate our revenue, and we leave VAT at 7.5 instead of the proposed 10%. Also, the NGF have further advocated for the continued exemption of essential goods and agricultural products from VAT to protect citizens' welfare and enhance agricultural productivity. The communique also noted that development levies related to TET Fund, NASENI, and NITSTA should not be terminal clauses in the proposed bills, and it has expressed support for the continuation of legislative processes in the National Assembly for the eventual passage of the tax reform bill. So they do make a lot of other adjustments to the tax reform bills, but I think the Guardian highlighted the most significant ones, or the most controversial ones that had, the North, for example, uncomfortable. So there would be no increase of value-added tax, as the tax did propose 7.5 to 10%, but right now they're keeping that as it is. But company income tax would remain, so that they can at least generate revenue from taxes. And like I said, 50% based on equality, 20% based on population, 30% based on derivation, which is somewhat similar to the system that we operated even before. And for that, as you know, there were conversations around taking monies that was meant for TET Fund, for example, and using it for NEL Fund. I believe that they've stepped back from that decision, and they will continue to fund TET Fund as they used to. Are there any other adjustments, Fad, you'd like us to highlight, and can you comment on the adjustments that has been made here?
No, you've of course brought it up properly. Those are the major points of resolutions by the Nigerian Governors Forum. And what I see is that, look, this is basically a political solution to the problem. Just like our politicians sitting together to say, okay, how do we solve this problem? What are the considerations? Let's shift on the right, shift on the left. Let's have a middle ground. Let's just meet at the middle. And that's what I've seen with this new proposal by the Nigerian Governors Forum. It will now be left to see how the committee would react. That's the Tax Reforms Committee. But I've always questioned why the committee in the first place did all of this job, start for over 1 year, and came up with a proposal that became problematic. So the question is, what were their consultations? How widely did they consult before putting their proposals together that became a deal that has now become so controversial, if you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I would have thought that, look, were all the governors consulted, for example, were all the critical stakeholders consulted, for example? Just about a day or two ago, the Nigerian Labour Congress even said that they were never consulted. They never had any conversation in the committee. And that came to me as a surprise, that, look, such a very important reforms, the committee would have been set up to go into such a reforms proposal without even meeting with the Nigerian Labour Congress, and all of that. So now they have to rework what they've done. They have to probably undo what they've done, because at the end of the day, the Nigerian Governors Forum is an integral part of what governance is about in the country. And if this is their own proposal now, that means that the committee has to check and recheck again. But you will see that the intentions are clear. The areas of that have been controversial have been the derivation model for sharing of VAT.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying. And now what they've done basically is to say 50% based on equality. So no matter what you bring to the table, at least that 50% should be shared equally amongst all the states and the FCT. And then 30% based on derivation.
Yeah.
So 30% now goes into what you bring to the table, and then 20% based on the population of the state. So you see that, look, the considerations here are majorly political, not on anything economical or any data that can support anything. The other consideration is the social implications of the initial proposal. If you understand what I'm saying, that, look, as much as you are expecting states in the north, for example, to buckle their shoes, roll up their sleeves, and do more hard work to to bring in VAT revenue. They are not yet prepared for that kind of task, and there could be serious social implications if we go ahead with the initial proposal. So all in all, let's hope this will fly, so that we can move on with our lives, move on to other critical issues, and leave this reform bill behind us.
Indeed. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper has the full story. Let's talk a little politics, Fuad. Police seal PDP secretariat in Rivers over leadership crisis. The rider to that party in state accepts judgments. Now, the Rivers State Police Command has taken control of the People's Democratic Party secretariat over a brewing leadership crisis. The Guardian yesterday cited about 4 police vans stationed around the party secretariat along the Aba-Port Harcourt Express Road. Personnel of the Special Squad of the Tactical Unit of the State Police Command were seen cordoning off the premises. The armed police personnel barricaded the secretariat and restricted movement within the area. Now, let's take our minds back to how all of this really started. The Rivers State High Court judgment nullified the ward local council and state congresses, and the PDP faction loyal to Governor Siminala Ifubara, led by Robinson Ewo, announced that the judgment has returned the party structure to them. However, the sacked PDP chairman, Chukwuemeka Aaron, and his group argued that his faction was still in charge, saying that they were not party to the court judgment that nullified the purported Congress, and so the police had to step in, that they are currently occupying the party secretariat to prevent a possible breakdown of law and order. And addressing newsmen yesterday, Ewo disclosed that a copy of the judgment has been transmitted to the party's national secretariat, adding that its assumption of office as acting state and local council executive has also been communicated to the national while they await further development. Fuad, we find ourselves in a country where the police have to take control of a structure because they are anticipating that grown men would cause ruckus in the state even after a court judgment. They are anticipating that individuals would be unable to just follow the rule of law, and chaos will most likely ensue because they need to retain power in a state. What sort of political system are we operating, and what is the long-term implication to governance, especially in Rivers State, which as significant as that state is to us as a nation?
No, you asked a very important question. What kind of political system are we operating? And I'm sure you know the answer already.
I don't even know anything.
Did you see the video of gunmen that stormed the premises of the Edo election petition tribunal?
Yeah, I think some people were actually shot. There was that some people, resumed to work. They resumed to work. They were shot at,
and then you saw one or two guys who had some guns, wailing and shouting, "Give us our mandate." And I've been seeing a lot of back and forth between the supporters of the PDP and the supporters of the APC. Why the PDP in Edo State is saying that it was the APC that brought in these guys so that they can pretend as if they are supporters of the PDP. The PDP says something, and now you have a situation in Rivers State where the political leaders of the state will not behave themselves. On all sides, actually, it's not just a wiki matter now. It's just a situation where these politicians have refused, to live above board, to be more responsible, in their utterances, behavior, and character. And it will not end now, because so long we continue to tolerate these people. And look at the way they keep dragging the court into these cases, to the extent that the courts are now inundated, clogged with all manner of irrelevant, unnecessary political cases. I will agree, I don't go agree. This one remove chairman, no chairman, So, and for us as journalists, I must tell you that I'm tired, because it's even almost extremely difficult now for you to follow the number of cases you have in Rivers State. The number of cases in different courts, the injunction, ex parte, order, ruling. I'm sure lawyers are tired too. But lawyers that are making money cannot be tired. So long these politicians have a lot of money in their pockets to throw around. Not their personal monies anyway. State monies that they can throw around. Because at the end of the day, this crisis in Rivers State is still on two factions. The Wike faction, the Fubara faction, and the fact that, look, none of these, political leaders is ready to look at the common good of the people of Rivers State. It's just about their own personal interest. And I'm sure this is a fight that will continue in 2027. But just hoping that, look, as long as they continue to fight without killing the people, without putting people in danger, they can continue to have this battle. They have enough money to throw around. They have enough resources to throw around. They also have a lot of jobless youth and politicians to also continue to help them push this evil agenda of theirs. But again, what kind of politics are we playing? What kind of politics or democracy are we running? Chaotic, gated, you know. It's just unfortunate that after 25 years of our democracy, this is what we are still talking about. See, I thought that at this stage, we'll be talking about building better institutions. We'll be talking about reforms that can take us to the next level. We'll be talking about an electoral system that can produce reformers, that can produce visionary leaders. I'm shocked that after 25 years of sustained democracy in the Fourth Republic, we are still talking about one politician buying funds for everybody, one politician holding a whole state down, a battle between a godfather and a godson. That is still the story of Nigeria's democracy in the Fourth Republic after 25 years. And we think we are going somewhere with that. I think we are just joking, really.
Well, it's on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's talk about agriculture again. We have on page 7, federal government, NIMC launched digital card to assist farmers, others. Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, FMARF, and the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, have introduced digital identity cards with multiple wallets to assist farmers and other Nigerians. Now, according to the NIMC, the development was in tandem with the National Identity Number NIN enabled farmer registry and the Government to People G2P card initiative. So NIMC said the project was designed to address the federal ministry's immediate challenge of identity and authentication required in delivering government assistance effectively and accurately. To prevent us from further reading verbatim what is in the report, since we already have an idea, basically for this card would be issued to farmers. It's a collaboration between the agricultural sector and also the identity management agency, where farmers would be issued cards that would help with identifying them, so that it's easy for them to have access to finance, for example, access to materials like fertilizers and what have you. So it's just to get them closer to the farmers and also to minimize the incidence of fraud like we saw with the Anchor's Borrowers program. So this is it focuses majorly on farmers, but other people can enjoy from the benefit. You have the card, you'll be registered, it will take your biometrics, so you can use that card to access funds, to access materials, to grow your crops, amongst other things.
Well, anything that will help with agriculture and anything that will help our farmers is a welcome development. Whether it's a card, whether it's a digital system, a registration portal that can help us identify where the farmers are, make finance available to them, give them all the needed support to be able to produce food for the country. Of course, we have to encourage that. I don't know the workings of this particular initiative and how effective it will be really when it comes to really helping our farmers. But we've always said it here, Sage, that we also need to go to the locals. You see, people cannot just sit in Abuja in their fully air-conditioned offices, drinking tea and coffee every morning, wearing agbada, and then coming up with initiatives. A lot of times these initiatives too of underlining interest, ulterior motives. I will not say that here, but you can help me say it. But this is where they. I think I had an opportunity to sit down with a civil servant, a top civil servant in Abuja, one or two occasions. And what he tells me is that, look, half of the time when they come up with initiatives, the first consideration is what is the need for us. How would this favor one or two? You understand? So, but I think the most important thing here is that we have to be more intentional about fixing the food problem that is upon us. Every expert has told us that 2025 is going to be tough when it comes to food production. The indices are there. All of the indications are already upon us, unless we want to continue to deceive ourselves. The level of insecurity, for example, in the north, should be enough indication to us that, look, it's not going to be all rosy. It might be tougher than what we saw in 2024. The cost of even producing food, people have talked about the rising prices of petroleum products, the issues of logistics. A lot really comes into this thing. And I'm not saying that the initiative is bad. I'm just saying that, look, we have to do more than just continue to create some of these things that may not have serious positive impact on when it comes to agriculture. Let's go there. What are the issues our local farmers are really facing? And I think we need people who can put their foot on ground, who can interact with these farmers, go into the local communities, do the needful, speak, take data, real data, and be involved too. Not just, because again, I know what it means to just do what they call armchair policy development. You just sit down somewhere and continue to draft things. And then when you throw it into the real issue, it becomes a problem too to implement. Because in the first place, it's almost top-down model of policy formulation. What works most times is to get the people who really need this policy involved in the policy making in the first place.
Right. Page 7 of The Guardian has that story. We have DHQ blames external forces, local collaborators for terrorism surge in Northeast. Still speaking on insecurity, especially in the Northeast. We have here the Riders Index lists West Africa as world's new terrorism epicenter. Troops neutralized 156 terrorists, arrest 464 in 1 week. The story in itself, the defense headquarters yesterday attributed the recent upsurge in terrorist activities in the Northeast to the influx of foreign fighters reinforcing local terror groups. The director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, made the disclosure while briefing newsmen on the armed forces operations in Abuja. He says, and I quote, "These foreign fighters are from the Sahelian region. The other contributing factor is the local collaborators that form a support base for the terrorists. They serve as informants to the terrorists, reporting on troops' movement. And despite the situation, troops are profoundly conscious of their role and responsibility in ending insurgency and terrorism in the country." End of quote. So Fuad, the DHQ has stated the challenges that they experience. First of all, they believe that these terrorists are foreigners, so to speak, from the Sahelian region, and to make matters worse, they believe that they are locals who are collaborating with them, not only shielding them but providing them with information. But all in all, they're still determined to wipe out and end the reign of these terrorists, especially in the northeastern region. What do you think about the concerns that they have raised, and in what ways can we assist them in doing their jobs?
Well, I think it is for the sake of information, just for Nigerians to know.
Yeah.
Because again, the DHQ is not telling us anything we don't know. We've said it severally on this platform that look, most of these guys have infiltrated the country from the Sahelian region. And that's why it's very important for us to pay attention to what is happening in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and other countries in the Sahel Savannah. Because again, we are seeing a situation where French troops, French military bases are being,
pulling out.
The relationship are ending. Leaving those places, and all of that. The big question is this thing. And that's why when I see people celebrating, these countries are taking their countries back from France, blah, blah, blah. Do these countries really have the capacity to fight some of these terrorists that are going to come after them? I remember that I think it was last year, Burkina Faso lost hundreds of soldiers to attacks from, some of these terrorists from the Sahelian region, Maghreb and all of that. Terrorism Index International is telling us that West Africa has now become the epicenter of terrorism. That it has even left the Middle East now. And if you look at the data, recent data, you see that in the Middle East, the era of ISIS, suicide bombings and all of those guys have gone down. Have you noticed?
Yes.
That we don't really get reports from the middle, maybe like Afghanistan, Pakistan, all of those things don't really happen in that region again. Now more of the terrorism issues are now being reported in West Africa, Nigeria, Chad, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. Recently, even the Benin Republic had its own troubles where some soldiers were killed by terrorists. In Benin Republic, that is not known for things like that. And the question is this: most of these francophone countries that are severing ties with France, do they really have the capacity to protect themselves? That's number one. And if they cannot protect themselves, what are the implications for Nigeria? Because a lot of their security architecture is still built around their relationship with France. So as long as these military guys come in, think that they can do these things by themselves, my mind tells me that they don't really have the capacity. I doubt if they have the capacity. That's number two. And this is, I might not be able to go into too much detail, but I'm going to just mention a little thing about what they call dark deep state international politics. if somewhere in the world, a colonial power decides to now begin to fund the terrorists against this government, and they withstand what will come against them. I've not mentioned any country. If somewhere in the world, some of these advanced colonial powers now think that the best way to deal with these military guys is to now begin to use, because it has happened severally. If you look at some of the crises in the Middle East, up till today, people are saying that, look, who were the countries that created ISIS in the first place before ISIS turned the table against them? I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying.
I do understand you.
I have my fears, about what is happening in West Africa. Now that they are even telling us that it has become the epicenter for terrorism. It's very, very important that Nigeria as a country pays serious attention to these things, clearly define what our own security strategy would be. Should the entire West Africa go out of control when it comes to insecurity, especially when it comes to terrorism? We need to pay attention seriously to what is happening in this region. And not just think that we are safe and secure. My mind tells you that these military guys are not going to be able to secure their country when some of these monsters come after them. They now have what they call ISWAP,
yes.
Islamic State of West African Province. Can these military guys in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, fight them, win them? And if they can't, if they succumb to these terrorists, what then will be the implications for Nigeria?
Especially with our border porosity. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper has that story. I'll just read the rest of the headlines. We have Boko Haram ambush. United Nations demand justice for 40 killed in Borno. It's on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. I think that's everything that we have really on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. For Punch, for our Dangote refinery projects 650,000 barrels per day by June. Plans crude import. The facility is now
moving on now, say.
But he's saying that we're unable to supply him with all the crude that he would need, and so they're focusing on importing crude. And there's been concern that with the new refineries coming upstream, would we be able to supply every single refinery in the country? Well, we are not even able to supply just Dangote refinery, so he's moving forward and importing into the country. And
the funny thing is that suddenly we have a lot of refineries now coming
on board.
And what we would need to be able to provide feedstock, crude oil to those refineries now, it is close to 1 million barrels per day.
Well, we're not doing 1.5, right? Yesterday the report told us we're not doing some 1.5.
Do you know how many crude forward sale we have done?
I know. I'm just telling you.
Because we are talking about what we need to reserve for local production.
There was a figure, right? I'm sorry, there was a specific amount that was supposed to be kept for domestic use.
450,000. 450. It's not enough. That's what I'm saying.
Right. I mean, Dangote is already doing.
Now that Port Harcourt is in, Warri is in, Walter Smith, Edo Refinery also needs. There are quite a number of modular refineries, small refineries. Some of them need like 5,000 barrels per day, 10,000 barrels per day. If you put everything together now, we are nearing close to 1 million barrels per day to be able to supply this refinery. Wow. Where would the crude come from? Dangote is already.
Well, no, fine. To complete your thoughts, he's doing 500,000 now, and he's projecting 650 by June. And the amount that is supposed to be kept for domestic use for the nation is 450. So he's even doing more than how much they're willing or how much they can supply. Well, let's see. And still speaking on oil, Pengassan is projecting petrol hike as crude cost rises. I believe it's between $75 to $80 per barrel.
$80 per barrel.
$80 per barrel. Yes, which originally, should make us very happy as a crude oil producing nation, but it's so ironic, it's so paradoxical that crude oil prices will rise and we have to suffer as a crude oil producing nation. Very, very ironic situation that makes me very sad, but it is what it is. It's on page 20, so we might see an increase in the pump price of PMS in the coming months because crude oil is now around $80 per barrel. And we also have here governor's proposed new VAT sharing formula case tax bill. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 12 we have 12.3 billion naira fraud, EFCC to arraign Otudeko, ex-First Bank MD on Monday. Is on page 12. We have here Ogun guard arrested for alleged defilement of 6-year-old. Is on page 5. I don't want to say what's on my mind really about this. I really don't want to say it because I don't want to, set some sort of, I don't know. But it is what it says.
5-year-old, right?
6-year-old girl. Ogun State is a guard apparently. and he defiled the 6-year-old, and he's been arrested, thankfully.
I still want to ask, why do the papers keep putting Ogun?
Because that's where they're from. That's where the suspect is from.
Okay, would anything change if it was just God defiled?
I think
minor?
it brings to the fore the fact that there's something wrong with that area, and they need to do more about protecting young girls and women from defilement. I think that's what they're trying to do. That there's something going on in that area. It's on page 5. On page 7, we have INEC deletes 7,746 dead persons from voter register. Oh, they're cleaning house. That's good. So we don't see conflicting figures. So about 7,000 names will be deleted from the voter register because they have passed. That's everything that the Punch has. And finally, for Vanguard, we have here Fuad, governors offers new formula for sharing VAT proceeds. We spoke about that. There's this story here that really breaks my heart. How hardship is an editorial. How hardship drives Nigerians to look for food in garbage. People are now checking for food.
And they give those markets.
Yes.
Women, yeah.
Women are now going to the market, checking the
trash. They mentioned that these are real life stories. They didn't make up the stories.
It's actually
people are now
here.
feeling from dumps.
When we come back, I'll just look at the report very briefly so we can talk about it. Federal government to Emir Sanusi, we don't need your approval for Tinubu's laudable policies.
I know they will tell him.
They've told him they don't need it. Please keep your advice to yourself. We don't need it. So that's what they said on page 9. But that's everything.
I told you that. Did anybody even tell him they needed his advice in the first place?
Well, they've told him they don't need his advice. Anyways, finally on page 10, kidnappings. Nigerians may have paid 10 trillion naira ransom in 2024, says Soludo. Well, we have to go forward. We're due for a break. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus. Stay with us. The Morning Express continues. I'm Sage Babalola. I will be